let's talk about what solutions are and what's happening when something dissolves, and then we'll get back to our chemical reactions. So a solution, you have something that's dissolved in something else. So it's a mixture where there's more of one of the components. For aqueous solutions, water is the solvent. It's there in a greater proportion. And the solute is the minor part. So for this one, the solute is the NaCl. One thing to notice is that when you have a solution, it's clear. You can see through it. It may have a color, but it's clear, it's not cloudy. Solvation is the process of this happening, of something dissolving. And so this is what it might look like for a covalent compound. These molecules could be sugar or something. These little ones are water. But this is what a solid looks like. You have a bunch of molecules that look alike, that are kind of close stuck together. And this is big enough that you would see it. It would reflect light. But when it dissolves, what's happening is that the individual molecules are floating off and they're getting surrounded by water. This picture doesn't probably show as much interaction as it could between the molecule and the water. The water's kind of attached around, but the solvent molecules surround the solute. Okay. In a molecular compound, a covalent compound, the molecules remain intact. In other words, these are individual molecules of sugar and it stays intact. You don't have each molecule break apart. They just break apart from each other. Most of the ones we're going to be seeing are not going to be covalent. So know that this happens, and when they dissolve, they don't break apart. Most of the ones we're going to be looking at are going to be ionic compounds dissolving in water. So if an ionic compound dissolves in water, not all of them do, but if it does, it must break into ions. And so this compound, ionic compound, the S is for solid, we're putting it in water, and it will break into its two ions. And each of those, I'm writing AQ because now they're dissolved in water. Okay, and so that's what really happens. If we look down here, what's happening is here's the crystal that's a solid, and as they float off, they're separating. The potassium and the chloride are separating. Each ion gets surrounded by water molecules, so they are breaking apart. Sometimes when we write this, we will write it like this, as though they're still connected. But that's not, we're just not showing what's going on with that. Another thing is that notice we have the word electrolyte here. That means it forms ions in solution. So when it dissolves in water, it forms ions, and we'll talk more about electrolytes in a minute. So ionization, this word dissociation, just meaning it breaks apart, that is true as well. Okay, let's look at our molecular compound again and what it looks like when it's dissolving. So a molecular compound, how we could write that, when it's dissolving, this is a sugar. Here it's a solid, we're adding water, and then here it does say AQ, but we see that there are no ions formed. Because this whole unit is remaining intact, like I showed you on the other picture. So because of that, it doesn't break into ions. It is not an electrolyte, and we would say it's a non-electrolyte.